Chapter 1. I got caught up in a hero summoning, but everything seemed incredibly shady, so I ran. All of a sudden, I was in a fantasy world of swords and magic straight out of medieval Europe. My name is Mukuda Tsuyoshi. 27 and single, I'm just a humble salaryman living in the suburbs of Japan. If asked why I'm in a world such as this, it's because I was caught in a hero summoning ritual. I've read web novels to kill time, so I'm familiar enough with this trope as to be sick of it, but never in my wildest dreams did I think it would actually happen. And to think, I'm not even the hero, I'm just collateral damage. This is no joke. The country that held this hero summoning ceremony was a place named the Kingdom of Riceager. Even though there were supposed to be 3 people summoned, 4 people showed up, so the higher-ups in the room all made troubled faces. Although the ones who were most troubled by this were the people who've been suddenly whisked away into another world. In other words, us. I mean, they're coming at us and calling us heroes all of a sudden. I had already caught on to the fact that this was another world because I've been reading all those web novels, though. To be honest, I got my hopes up just a little because they were calling me hero. But those hopes were dashed pretty quick. Right after we were summoned, they immediately had our statuses appraised with a magic tool. In the job column of our statuses, everyone other than me, they were all wearing school uniforms, so I think they were all high schoolers, had hero from another world written down, but I was a victim from another world. On top of that, all of their stats like HP and MP were between 700 and 800, while my stats were only about 100. Even so, those numbers apparently were above average for this world, so I was told that I was at least somewhat powerful. But my stats clearly didn't measure up to theirs, so that fact was no consolation at all. The number of skills I had was no comparison to those 3 either. Including skills we all had like appraisal and item box, they all had stuff that shocked the higher-ups that were there, like holy sword skill, or holy spear skill, or even sacred magic. And on top of that, they all had the skills for elemental magic like fire, water, earth, wind, sacred, lightning, and ice. They were the definition of overpowered. Compared to them, I only had the unique skill, online supermarket. My immediate reaction was, no, what the hell kind of skill is that? I mean, I knew what an online supermarket was. I owed online supermarkets a lot. But it's a skill, you know. A skill. There ought to be something more magic-like or something, no. The people of this other world had no idea what the skill was, and the 3 with the hero job all laughed at me, so thanks to this unique skill I was immediately branded as useless. Even so, there was no doubt I was summoned to this world with the hero summoning ceremony, so I was able to participate in the audience with the king, but what he said was shady as all heck. According to the king, the Demon King frequently attacks this country because he wants to conquer it. They've somehow managed to stall him for now, but they have no idea how long they'll be able to keep the status quo. The kingdom's people are suffering under these continued conditions. With those feelings, they had no choice but to rely on the ancient ritual of hero summoning. It's a selfish wish after summoning us here at their convenience, but they want us to somehow save this country. They don't know of a way to return us back to our world here in this country, but the Demon King might know of a way, as he has lived a long life and is extremely skilled at magic. Well, it was that kind of excuse. There was clearly something going on here. Especially them putting off responsibility for returning us to our world for later. Also, the king said that this country was in dire straits, but the people here had none of that grimness about them. Not only that, but the king was a very obese old man, and he was wearing a gemstone-studded gaudy as all heck mantle that screams, just how much money did you put into this? And sitting next to the king, his wife, and their daughter beside her, are both wearing flashy dresses that put on display just how they're living in the lap of luxury. Would a royal family expressing grief over the state of their people put forward an appearance like they're indulging in every luxury they can? Putting together all these observations, I came to the conclusion that this was one of the no-good types of otherworld summonings. Even though they called us heroes, in the end we'll probably just be used conveniently by the country, like being sent out in wars to expand the country's territory. Moreover, I wasn't even a hero, so I probably can't expect to be treated well. In the worst case, I might even be executed. I decided that it would be best if I left the castle as soon as I could. That's why, at the time, I acted as humble as I could and said this. Seeing as how I'm not a hero, I'd only be causing everyone trouble by remaining here. Doing that would riddle me with guilt, so if I could just have enough money to live during the 2 or 3 months it would take for me to find employment, I'd like to leave and live on my own. And just as I expected, they gave me 20 gold coins and tossed me out of the castle with the haste of someone getting rid of a nuisance. And so we've come to the present, with me walking around the streets of the capital. I had no idea if 20 gold coins was a lot or nothing at all, but at any rate I'd been given enough money for me to at least live for a while. I thought to myself, I need to hurry up and learn more about this world, starting with the value of currency, don't I? And then I'll need to leave this country as soon as possible. With the king like that, I can't imagine this country is a good place to be, and I don't think anything good will happen to me if I stay, either. Okay, with that decided, let's hurry up and take action. This capital resembled a town out of medieval Europe. I started off by calling out to some children who were idling about on the street nearby. Hey, do you guys have some time? I just arrived from way out in the country so I'm not really familiar with this place. I'll treat you to some skewers from the stall over there, so can you teach me some stuff? They were wary of me at first, but they couldn't win against their stomachs and so they eventually agreed. I bought the children 2 skewers each and listened to what they told me. The first thing I asked them about was the value of the currency here, which one could argue was the most important thing to learn, and came to these conclusions based on what they said. 1 iron coin right pointing arrow 10 yen. 1 copper coin right pointing arrow 100 yen. 1 silver coin right pointing arrow 1000 yen. 1 gold coin right pointing arrow 10,000 yen. 1 large gold coin right pointing arrow 100,000 yen. 1 platinum coin right pointing arrow 1 million yen. The skewers I treated the children to were 5 iron coins each. If a family of 4 had 6 gold coins, they could probably live off of that for at least a month. I also heard of the existence of the adventurers and merchants guilds, which weren't attached to any country. Both of these were basically mainstays of any fantasy novel, and that belonging to either of these guilds would make moving from country to country or town to town smooth. Basically, it would lessen the costs of doing so. If one had a form of identification not from either the adventurers or merchants guilds, or no form of identification at all, those from rural areas or children living on the streets often didn't have any of this, one would get taxed when trying to get into countries or cities therein. This kind of stuff is common in this genre. I also asked about this country. And I heard that, while the conflict with the demonic race was real, apparently this country was the aggressor. The stated reason was to destroy the demons that cause harm to humans, but in the end, their real aim was the demonfolk's land. This country has also been making suspicious moves towards the neighboring human-led countries too, so people have been leaving the country little by little for a while now. The children also told me that they were orphans whose parents had died in the war. These children knew more than I expected. Apparently, they see and hear a lot because they take on a lot of menial jobs to earn money to live. Orphans are really tough. Anyway, I'd plan to stay at an inn tonight and leave the capital tomorrow. I heard from the children that there's a stagecoach that goes to a town called Kiels which lies on the border to another country every day, so I was set on riding that to get out of here. After that, I was going to cross the border, and figure things out again from there. At any rate, getting out of Riceeger Kingdom was the most important thing. In order to do that, I'd need some funds, but I had an idea for that. I also already had the 20 gold coins I was given from the country. They probably gave me a bit more than was necessary because they were feeling a little sorry that they summoned me in a fashion like a pseudo-kidnapping. Well, it's convenient for me that this shady country gave me this much. Let's live off these funds for a while, I thought. I arrived at an honest and moderately priced shop for clothes that was recommended by those children. I came because I was still in the suit I was wearing when I was summoned, so I stuck out like a sore thumb. I bought a dully colored shirt and brown pants so that I'd match those people walking the streets. The clothes were more expensive than I expected at 7 silver coins, but I managed to get the store to buy my suit, shirt, and bag for 3 gold coins, so I made a net profit of 2 gold and 3 silver coins. I considered putting the writing implements, documents, smartphone and other small accessories I had into my item box, but I didn't know how the existence of the item box would be treated in this world, so I probably shouldn't show it so easily to others. There were cases in the novels I'd read where the item box was treated as an extremely valuable skill, after all. Thankfully, the store owner threw in a cloth shoulder bag for free, so I put my stuff inside that. My shoes were probably fine as is. Before I left, I made sure to ask for a moderately priced inn nearby. He recommended an inn 3 buildings over, so I headed towards it. The inn the store owner recommended was 4 silver coins for a night's stay with meals. After dinner I returned to my room and checked everything that needed to be checked. First up. Status open. Name. Tsuyoshi Mukuda. Age. 27. Job. Victim from another world. Level. 1. HP. 100. MP. 100. Attack. 78. Defense. 80. Agility. 75. Skills. Appraisal. Item box. Unique skill. Online supermarket. Just like they had told me at the castle, when I chanted, status open, an opaque window appeared in front of me with my status on it. Apparently only summoned heroes with the appraisal skill, although I'm not a hero, can check their statuses at any time. According to them, normally one would have to check their status using an appraisal magic tool at a town's guild branch or temple. Oh yeah, they were bragging something about how the magic item for confirming statuses was something the magic tool craftsmen from their country poured their blood, sweat, and tears into developing, weren't they? I decided to turn my thoughts to my own skills. Well, leaving that aside, they also said that around 70 is the average for people in this world, so I guess I'm just a little stronger than most people. The skills, appraisal, and item box are shared between all of the people that are summoned, so that must be something like a perk of the ritual. It seems like the item boxes of the summoned always have a high capacity, and while I was at the castle I overheard someone saying that there was a legend of a past hero putting in over 1,000 monsters into their box. I was also told that those summoned are able to understand this world's language from the moment they arrive. That also probably falls under the perks of summoning. I mean, it's a cliché of otherworld stories, after all. The biggest problem was my unique skill, online supermarket. I know what an online supermarket is. As the type to want to hole up in his house over the weekends, I've used them a lot. I don't hate cooking, so back then I would cook from the ingredients I ordered, and eat while watching the dramas I'd recorded, or else spend time drinking beer and reading all the web novels I could find. That was my routine on days off. But the question is, how do I use this skill? Online supermarket. Nothing happened when I chanted the name. Then, what if I touch it? When I touched the words on my status screen, the window changed. It's literally just an online supermarket site. It was the exact same site I often used to use. For now, I put a 500 milliliters bottle of water costing 8 iron coins and 2 sweetbreads costing 1 copper coin each into the cart. Apparently, the prices reflected their pricing in Japan. When I tried to check out though, it said, there is not enough remaining credit. Please add more funds. A square frame appeared under the notice. So, it's telling me to add funds. Do I just put the coins in here? When I hesitatingly brought a silver coin close to the frame, it sucked up the coin on its own. And as soon as I finalized the purchase, silver particles of light gathered before my eyes and gradually formed a shape. It was the cardboard box the site used when delivering orders. Once I opened the box, I found the water and sweet bread I ordered inside. Ooh, this is going to be useful. Back then, I thought, those important people working for the kingdom didn't know anything about my unique skill other than that it wasn't a skill for battle, and the heroes that were with me laughed. But this is actually a good skill that'll be quite useful. As long as I have money, I'll have no problems with food, and I can probably even earn the money I would need for that with this somehow. It's not overpowered like being a hero, but with this skill I can probably become very rich in this world. According to the information I got from those children, salt is expensive in any country that isn't next to the ocean, and spices such as pepper or sweets are only for nobles and the like. I could use my skill to buy lots of salt, pepper, or sugar at the prices I used to buy them at in Japan, and then I could go and sell them at high prices here in this world. If I did that, it should amount to quite the profit. If I looked around carefully, there should be other products that would bring profit. Online supermarkets these days stock daily necessities as well as food, after all. Because of that, I'd like to register with the Merchants Guild, but doing so in this country would probably be a bad move. If by some chance they realize that they could make money off of my skill, there would be a real possibility that the kingdom would start interfering with me. If I was going to register, I should do it in the next country over. Anyway, it all starts tomorrow. Let's hurry up and get away from this town, and then cross the border. I probably won't be able to sleep in a bed for a while after tonight seeing as how I'll be on the road. And so I went to sleep, in order to be ready for tomorrow. After I ate breakfast, I left the inn. As I headed over to where the stagecoach would be stopped, I checked on the fee and departure time. The fee seemed to be 1 gold coin, and it would take around 4 days to get to Kielce. There was still time until the coach was set to depart, so in the meantime I went to prepare 4 days' worth of food and a weapon just in case something went wrong. Of course, using online supermarket in front of people would be a bad idea, and in the case that item box is a rare skill, there could be a chance of an uproar, so I probably shouldn't use that either. I bought a water skin, jerky, black bread, as well as a slightly large knife. With this, I was ready. All that was left was to ride the stagecoach and get away from this capital. Other than me, there was a middle-aged peddler, a young married couple and their 2 children, and a woman in her mid-30s riding this stagecoach. There was also a party of 4 adventurers guarding the coach. From when we departed, I started talking a little with the peddler who was sitting next to me. "Are you going to Kielce to sell something?" I started off with harmless small talk. "Yeah, I managed to get some soap from a certain source, you see. I was thinking of getting a firm I know in Kielce to buy it off me." "Oh, soap, is it? So this world has it too." So, after a lengthy discussion, I learned that apparently soap does exist, but it was something only nobles use. When selling to a noble, a bar of soap went for around 3 silver coins. When I tried to indirectly bring up the subject of item boxes, I learned that nobles and large trading companies would hire people with the skill. It was said that people with the item box skill are about 1 in 1,000, but it seems the size of it depends on the person's MP, so if one didn't have at least a fairly large item box they wouldn't be able to get hired by said nobles or companies. No matter how small your box is, it should be at least 3 times bigger than what I can carry with this wooden backrack that I have, so from my point of view anyone with an item box is someone to be jealous of. Saying that, the peddler laughed. "I see, so the item box skill does exist among people, even if it's rare. As long as I pretend that my item box's capacity is small, it should be fine to use," I thought. If I was to become a merchant, having the appraisal skill would be a great boon, wouldn't it? I was able to ask about item boxes, so I tried bringing up appraisal in the same way. "Ah, that's something every merchant dreams of. But that's something that only summoned heroes from another world who only exist in fairy tales can use. Although I do think that it's not heroes who should have the skill, but merchants. Appraisal, it's the dream of any merchant, no. Even without the appraisal skill, it would be nice if the appraisal tool becomes more widely available. People find them sometimes in ancient ruins, but they're so expensive your eyes'll pop out of your head, so only countries or guilds are able to obtain them." Phew, that was close. I couldn't help but sigh in relief in my head. So appraisal is something only summoned heroes have, and magic tools with appraisal also exist. But they're so expensive that it's impossible to own one privately. It seems they only rarely come out of ancient ruins, or in other words, highly difficult dungeons, so of course there wouldn't be a lot of them. It was good that I asked. So now I know that there's basically no chance that I would ever get appraised. While we talked about this and that, I eventually found out that the peddler was also aiming to cross the border. He leaned over and told me a secret in a whisper. "This country's become pretty suspicious lately, you know. It would have been out of the question if I had a family, but luckily I'm single, so I'm thinking of getting out of this country early. There's rumors that they might close their borders soon, after all." Closing their borders. I thought, this country is dangerous as all heck. It's a good thing that I gave up on this country early and decided to move. On the way to Kielce, monsters like goblins and wolves appeared, as I would expect from a fantasy world of swords and magic. Monsters do exist here, but the adventurers guarding us defeated them without trouble, so the ride went smoothly. When we arrived at Kielce, I headed over to where the old peddler told me the stagecoach for crossing the border would be. No way. At the station, a notice saying, "Stagecoach services currently on hold," was displayed. What do you mean, on hold? Is this what the peddler meant by closing their borders? But if that's really the case, would the town really be this calm? At any rate, I needed more information. I headed over to a restaurant where a lot of adventurers that have probably been to many different countries gathered so I could fill my stomach while I was at it. I took a seat at the bar, and called out to a group of 2 adventurers who just happened to be sitting next to me. "Hey, you guys have a moment?" "Sure. What do you need?" "I've actually just arrived here a little while ago, so there's a few things I'd like to know." I promptly waved the barkeep down and bought the two some ale. When I did that, the adventurers happily said, "Ah, you know your stuff," and promptly started talking. I see. So stopping the stagecoaches in order to help stop the flow of people leaving. Yeah, if the population decreases, so does the number of soldiers and the amount of taxes. Right now it's just the stagecoaches, but they might really shut down the border eventually. Even though this country is already warring with the Demonfolk, it seems they're planning on starting a war with the Kingdom of Marvale too. Right. It's only a matter of time before war breaks out. It might have been because they have some liquor in them, but the two adventurers were very talkative. The country of Demonfolk borders this country's northern end, while the Kingdom of Marvale is in the west. My plan was to head to the Kingdom of Venan to the southeast. We're also planning on saying goodbye to this country soon. Hunting monsters suits us more than fighting in a war, you know. You should leave as soon as you can, too. I'd have left this country already if I could have, but if a monster appeared on the road there would be nothing someone like me, who is just a little stronger than average, could do about it. It seemed to be a significant problem, but as I looked at the adventurers, it came to me. Why don't I just make a request to the Adventurers Guild? It'll probably cost quite a bit of money, but there's no point in being stingy here. My first priority is to leave this country before they close their borders for good. I decided to put out a request to the Adventurers Guild to guard me while I cross the border. The next morning. Well then, let's go put up the request at the Adventurers Guild. The guild was facing the main street and I found it immediately, but it was early in the morning, so the building was jam-packed. In a rather cliched development, I was stared at by the adventurers when I entered, but I tried to ignore them. I'm just here to post a request, I swear. If they realize I'm a client from my conversation with the clerk, nobody should mess with me. Probably. After I stood in line for a while it was finally my turn. Excuse me, I'd like to make a request. A request, is it? What are you asking for, sir? I'd like to hire guards while I cross the border into Venan. Also, I don't have a carriage, so the journey will be on foot. This is my first time putting out a request. How much should I pay for a job like this? An escort mission on foot, yes. For that kind of request, you'll need at least a C rank party or above, and on top of that it'll be on foot, so it'll take quite a while. At the very least, you should probably offer 7 gold coins. While I was thinking to myself that 7 gold coins would hurt my wallet quite a bit, the receptionist started talking again. However, because the stagecoaches are stopped, we've been getting more of this kind of request. Taking that into account, a reward of 8 gold coins might be more appropriate. I see, because if the number of the same kind of quest increases, adventurers will bite at the one that pays more. But 8 gold coins. It honestly hurt me to pay that much, but you need to break eggs to make an omelet, there was really no choice. Understood. I'll pay 8 gold coins. Also, could you let them know I'll handle the food? From the receptionist's choice of words, it sounded like 8 gold coins might have been a tough sell, so I tried adding food onto the table. I don't hate cooking, and I did have that skill, so as long as I were to choose cheaper ingredients, it should be fine. Alright then, I'm in your care. Leaving reward money at the desk, I left the Adventurers Guild. The next day, I got called to the Adventurers Guild. When I arrived, I was surprised to find that my request had already been accepted. I didn't expect to have it accepted this fast, but I wanted to leave as soon as possible, so I was actually grateful. At the guild, I was introduced to the C-rank party, Ironwill. I'm the leader of Ironwill, Werner. Pleased to meet you. My name is Mukoda, and the pleasure is all mine. It seems only nobles get family names, so in order to avoid suspicion, I only gave them my last name, and also made sure to pronounce it in a foreign way. Werner was a densely packed, 190 centimeters tall man in his early 30s. He had a large shield on his back, and a sword hanging from his hip. His thick arms carried many old scars, so he really felt like a seasoned adventurer. From Werner's introduction, the members of his party were a man wearing leather armor with a longsword on his hip named Vincent, who I thought was a swordsman, a young girl who was probably a scout named Rita, who wore a chest protector and carried a knife, a stoic old man with white in his hair named Ramon, who donned a robe like a mage, and a woman named Franca in her early 20s who was probably their healer, as she wore white clothes that reminded me of a nun's habit. By the way, she had a huge chest. It seemed to be a pretty balanced party. I didn't think the guild would introduce me to people who they didn't think would be able to complete the request, so I decided to hire them. After I talked with Werner, we decided to leave tomorrow at 7 in the morning, after meeting up in front of the Adventurers Guild. If that was to be the case, I would have a lot to prepare, as I would be the one preparing all the food for the trip. On the way back to the inn, I bought the things I'd need for the trip. First was a mantle. It could stave off the cold, and when sleeping I could just wrap it around me, so it seemed pretty necessary. I also bought all the cutlery and plates I'd need at a general store. While I was doing that, I also found a lot of other stuff that seemed useful, like a magic stove. Just like the name implied, it was a stove that produced fire when one ran magic power through it. They came with either one or two stovetops, but both models were expensive. Just then, I suddenly thought, why not just buy a mini stove from the online supermarket? It looked exactly the same, so if I were to tell the adventurers that it was a magic stove, there wouldn't be anything suspicious about it. Okay, let's do that. Buying a mini stove from the online supermarket is way cheaper, too. With that decided, all that was left was to actually buy what I needed with my skill, so I hurried to return to the inn. After I got to my room, I proceeded to buy up a storm, a mini stove and the accompanying gas canister, a pot and frying pan, knife, chopping board, and the all-important ingredients. I was buying for a party of 5 adventurers plus me, so I made sure to get a lot. I got vegetables, like potatoes, carrots, and Japanese scallion, along with cheese, ham, sausage, and eggs. I also bought some pre-prepared side dishes. Lastly, I got some salt, bouillon cubes, and other spices. All in all, I spent a little over 2 gold coins. I was down to 8 gold coins, 5 silver coins, and a few copper and iron coins each to my name. My wallet's getting tighter and tighter. I considered, but it'll only be until I reach Venin. Once I get there, I'll register at the Merchants Guild and sell my heart out. And after securing funds, I'll move again once I've seen the state of things. Let's work hard for my safe and peaceful life. When I arrived in front of the Adventurers Guild at the agreed-upon time, I found the members of Ironwell already waiting for me. Sorry I'm late. No, we just arrived early. Don't worry about it, said the leader, Werner, laughing. Apparently, they drilled the habit of doing this quickly into their bodies. That's a good habit to have, I thought. Okay then, let's go. I nodded, and set off on the road to Venin. Leaving the town of Keels, we made smooth progress. Iron Will's formation had no holes. I was in the center, with Rita the scout in front, Vincent the swordsman to my right, Ramon the mage to my left, Franca the healer behind me and to the right, and Werner behind me and to the left. They were set up to protect me, the client, at any time. We should take a break soon. At Werner's suggestion, we decided to rest. As promised, I started to prepare food. That said, there wasn't much time, so it was going to be a simple meal. I took the mini stove that I bought earlier out of my item box. Oh, so you were an item box user, Mukoda. And that's a magic stove. You've got something pretty neat, there. In response to Vincent's comment, I nodded, explaining, my capacity is pretty small, though. I did hear that item box users exist, so I decided to make it out that I have an item box, but that it's small. That way, it would be more convenient to hold my stuff, which has been increasing, and this way, it should also probably better than going to weird lengths to hide it. I got the magic stove from an acquaintance. He said he probably wouldn't have any chance to use it anymore, so I got it for pretty cheap. I readily used the excuse I prepared beforehand for my mini stove. The end justifies the means, applies here. While I talked with Vincent, I brought out a loaf of bread and some ham and cheese to make sandwiches. I also made some instant consommé soup in wooden cups. Of course, I made sure they couldn't see while I made it. After I poured in water that I boiled with the mini stove into the cups, lunch was finished. Everyone, food's ready. I handed out a cup with soup in it and a plate with a sandwich on it to each adventurer. All right, I guess I should dig in. At Werner's signal, everyone began eating. Delicious. This bread is very soft and delicious. Yeah, this bread is crazy soft and tasty. This soup's good too. Oh, this is pretty good. Delicious. Those reactions in order were Vincent, Franca, Rita, Werner, and Ramon. It's good that they liked it. I cut so many corners making this though. They were especially surprised about the bread. Apparently, only nobles got bread this soft. Certainly, all the bread I've eaten up till now in this world has been black or brown and hard as a rock. In order to avoid further questions, I told them, this bread is made from a secret recipe from home. I bought a bunch before I left and put them in my item box. Everyone froze up, and somebody uttered, something so precious. But I just replied to that by telling them that, food is meant to be eaten. I mean, I can get more bread any time with my skill. At any rate, it's really great that we can get hot food while traveling. Werner said, and everyone else nodded in agreement. Too true. We were right to take this quest. Evidently, while traveling, it would be normal to have rather tasteless foods like hardtack or jerky, so the food I put out is quite the feast to people who are going places. It seems that good food breaks the ice anywhere, as conversation flowed freely. Apparently, the members of Iron Will had felt the unrest in the country too, so they had recently discussed moving to a different country as well. It was then that they saw my request, and thought it was perfect timing, so they accepted it. Actually, there were other requests that paid more, but they didn't really need money that badly at the moment, and since I promised to provide the food during travel, they ended up taking mine. It seems that food fees for 5 people is no joke, I noted. No, I'm the one that's thankful for you guys taking my request. I also came to Kiel's because I wanted to get out as soon as possible, but seeing that the stagecoaches were stopped, for a while I was panicking, wondering what I should do. So it's thanks to all of you that I'm able to travel to Benin. Even though I look like this, I'm pretty confident in my cooking, so leave the meals to me. After I said that, everyone smiled. They had good food to look forward to for the rest of the journey, after all. I'll try my best, so please get me to Benin safely.